Recently, we did a few videos comparing the Safety Plus steering control with this particular Bilstein Steering Stabilizer, which actually came installed on a Jayco or Entegra F-53 coach. I believe this is part of the J-Ride package. And overall, those videos were pretty well received, but there was some pushback on them. And we want to take some time today to really address some of those criticisms. I realized that the videos that we did were somewhat quick, and maybe we could have taken a bit more time to go into more detail. So that's what we're going to do today. So what we have here is we've got the Bilstein damper actually installed on our demo axle. What we're going to do is actually look at the way it performs and compare that with the way the Safety Plus steering control performs. Now, there is one key difference with this setup compared to the way it was installed on the coach. You'll notice here that this would be the driver's side on the axle bracket. So this end of the steering stabilizer is connected to the driver's side of the axle, and then the tie rod bracket is attached on the passenger side. This is the inverse of how it was installed on the F-53. That just comes from just limitations of how our axle is set up. What that means is that the direction of steering, which results in compression versus extension of this unit, is now flipped. So then, just jumping right into it, one of the most significant criticisms that we received is that the gas pressure within this unit is actually not doing anything to affect the way the damping force is on it. And there is some truth in that. So just for some background, any monotube damper is going to have a high pressure gas charge within it to keep the valve stack properly in contact with the oil. So that's what actually provides your damping force. And I've actually got a Bilstein shock absorber. So this is just a suspension shock to look at for comparison. This would install on actually an E450 coach, would go this way. I'm going to flip it that way though, because it'll be a little easier for me to compress. You'll notice that there is gas pressure in it. Takes some force to extend it, and it does take some force to hold it in place. When I let go of it, it does extend. And that's the same as how this unit works. On a suspension application, that gas pressure, it doesn't really do much for your damping force. It is a little bit of a misunderstanding that people may have, that they think, oh, it's going to ride really stiff because it takes so much force to compress that thing. In actual performance, the weight of the coach is going to easily hold that in place, and then the actual damping force that this shock exerts is going to be so much greater than that little bit of force it takes to compress it, that it makes that gas pressure relatively negligible. In a suspension application, I agree that the gas pressure is not really doing anything. However, this is not a suspension application. This is a steering application. It takes a lot of force to change the ride height of a coach. It does not take a lot of force to change your steering position. Just for reference, again, coming back to the blue Safety Plus unit, 230 pounds of centering force right off center. That is enough to bring the steering back on center pretty quickly, actually. It's not that much of a logical jump to determine, okay, if 230 pounds brings it back on center very quickly, less force than that could be enough to still push it off center or affect the center point in the steering. So I still maintain that a bit of pressure off center in the steering because of the damper could be enough to push it off center. Now, does this unit have enough to do that? Let's take a look and actually see how it performs. So what we're going to do is we're going to steer this in both directions and really see how it behaves. First, I'm going to go to the right a little bit, and then I'm going to let go. We'll see how it wants to come back out. Now we're getting to a bit more stiffness in our steering gear itself. But see there, it kept going. Definitely less effort to steer it to the left, and there it goes. You can definitely see there's more, turn it to the right, let it go. There's more of a tendency for the unit to want to extend and for the steering to want to go, in this case, to the left. Again, remembering that this is installed the inverse of how it was on the F-53. Clearly, it does favor one side. Is that enough to actually make a difference in the way the coach drives and actually induce a steering pull? We're going to let you guys be the judge of that. So you go ahead and let us know in the comments below what you think. But what I will say with absolute confidence is that this steering stabilizer is not doing anything to bring the steering back on center. And I wouldn't expect it to. There's nothing in its design that would make it do that. And that is something that makes this a little bit of an unfair comparison, because you're comparing a steering stabilizer or steering damper with a steering control. And again, somebody else was saying, oh, shame on you for comparing with a defective unit. There's nothing wrong with this unit. It's functioning the way it's intended by the manufacturer. It's acting purely as a damper because that's what it's intended to do. It's not bringing your steering back on center. So what we're going to do now is actually remove this from our demo axle. We're going to put a Safety Plus steering control on, and then we'll compare the way that behaves in terms of centering. All right, so now we've got our blue Safety Plus unit installed for comparison. And this unit is actually a demo cutaway unit, so you can see inside there the springs that are installed on it. So we have a cutaway here and over there. And what you'll see when we turn the wheel, those springs are actually being compressed. And that's really what sets this Safety Plus apart. Now, watch me at the wheel here. I'm going to crank the wheel over. Going to let go. Turn it back the other way. Very positive center point. 230 pounds of force right off center, bringing your steering back on center. That's what sets the Safety Plus steering control apart from just a steering stabilizer or steering damper. Again, it's an apples to oranges comparison. The Bilstein is a steering damper. It does provide that damping force. The Safety Plus provides damping force, but it also provides that very positive center point. That brings me to another criticism that we had from the video. More of a comment/criticism is that a steering control or steering stabilizer is often used to, or I think the comment is just used to mask an issue. There is some truth in that. And first, for the reason that a good steering control, such as a Safety Plus, can mask an issue, for that reason, we always recommend that before one be installed on your coach, you test drive it first, because we definitely don't want to be covering something else up. We want to make sure that if there is actually a root issue present there, that we address that first before trying to cover it up with a Safety Plus. That being said, there are limitations on what can be done with alignment. So certain chassis, we can only get so much caster. So it may be that they're set entirely within specs, but maybe they still have a pretty strong tendency to follow the crown of the road, basically to the right. The F-53 actually is a good example of one of those, the Freightliner XC also. So while it can be difficult to correct that issue with alignment alone, a Safety Plus steering control can be used to really effectively correct that tendency to follow the road crown off to the side of the road. So that's one thing I want to say. And then the second part of that comment, I think, was that there are semi-trucks that go straight down the road without an issue. They track just fine. And first, it's actually pretty fitting that we talk about semi-trucks, because the Safety Plus steering control was actually developed by a trucker back in the 1980s. And the reason that he developed it is because he had lost several friends in front tire blowout accidents where they did not maintain control of their truck after that happened. Really, the reason that the Safety Plus was developed was because of safety, really to help the driver maintain control in the event of a front tire blowout. And then the plus comes in because of all of those other drivability benefits that we've already talked about besides that safety aspect. Totally up to you whether or not you want to get a Safety Plus installed on your coach, but we believe that there are a lot of reasons that it's really the superior steering control device out there, superior to just a steering stabilizer or steering damper. And just, drivability, as well as all of the safety benefits for helping you maintain control should that front tire blowout situation ever happen. So hopefully this video was helpful in addressing some of those concerns, questions, comments. We hope that it was beneficial to you. Please let us know in the comments below if it was, if you have other questions that you'd like us to delve into. And please remember to like and subscribe if this was helpful to you as well. And until next time, we'll wish you safer and happier driving. Thank you.